Anthony. David Gruber.
Here.
Ann Hager.
Here.
Julian Forkey.
Here.
Wayne Kwadler.
Here,
He's online.
online.
Thank you. Zach Cadet.
Here.
Susan Kent.
Here.
Ryder Kessler.
Here.
Janine Kiley.
Here.
Ivy Monson Archie.
Here online.
No, very good. Patricia Laria. Michael Levine.
Here.
Ed Ma.
Here,
Remote.
Ed Ma here.
I got you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Matt Metzger.
Here.
Daniel Miller. Daniel Miller.
He's outside.
Erica Olson.
Here.
Juan Osorio. Juan. And Brian Tate here. Donna Raftery.
Here.
Lois Reckoff. Bo Riccobono.
Here.
Zach Roberts.
Here.
Lucia Sands.
Present.
Shirley Secunda.
Here.
And Kristen Shea. Kristen Shea, pardon me. What? Not here? Federica Siegel.
Here.
Here. Emma Smith. And Dr. Shirley Smith. And Chanel Spence.
Here,
Remote. And Susan Wittenberg.
Here.
And Anthony Long.
Here.
And Cheryl Wu. And Eugene Yu. So Cheryl
I don't see
and
you.
Eugene.
Your hand is raised.
Is that right?
Your hand is not raised.
Excellent. Thank you, everybody, for attending our first in-person meeting in a long time. My name is Susan Kent. I am the chair of CB2. So without further ado, let's start our public session.
Thank you very much. So I'm just gonna go based on who I see online first, and then we'll go to in-person. We are on 277 Canal Street. We have Eddie Siegel, Andrew Stern, and Ben Wetzler, and then Brendan Fitzgerald and Pete Davies.
So you're gonna unmute them? Are they online or are they
They're
here?
online.
Maybe we go back and forth between.
I don't know.
Is it possible because it's too close to this microphone?
No, this microphone is on.
I swear that somebody's got a device in their pocket.
Bring it from the mic and then also have a lot of pops or something.
We have them closed.
I need to, I can't promote anyone. I'm not a host.
Oh, okay. So I'm gonna stop share. And, oh, it looks like, can you turn off the microphone for a second? Thank you.
Not yet, not yet.
Someone's got a live mic. Oh, I do. Ha.
Ed, can you mute yourself?
Yes, okay.
The
Borough
audio,
President?
Sir?
That's for here. Thank you.
Mark Levine, can you hear us?
Yes, I can. Hi, CB2.
Hi.
It's great to see all of you. Am I on?
Yes, you
are.
Excellent. Well, congrats on your first hybrid meeting. I know there's always a few kinks the first time, but you guys are doing great. Next time I'm gonna have to show up in person to see all of you. Happy Pride Month. Happy summer solstice. Thanks to all of you who came out to the great event that I was able to hold with Councilmember Botcher, celebrating Pride Month, hosted at Macy's. We had a great turnout. Saw a bunch of you there, and I think I'm going to see a lot of you on Sunday for the big parade. Hoping we avoid the rain. I am so thrilled at the new board members that we have who've joined across Manhattan. We have 120 borough-wide, maybe a record number, probably close to it. Just phenomenal talent, phenomenal diversity, and CB2 is no exception. I want to welcome Emma Smith and Eric Olson and Hager, Zachary Kazaz, and Julia Horkey. How about we give all the new members a big round of applause? We're very happy you guys are with us. I can't wait to work with every single one of you. On a little more of a somber note, I want to acknowledge the tragedy of the e-bike store fire this week, in which we lost 4 fellow New Yorkers, 2 still in critical condition. We've already had 100 e-bike fires in New York City this year, or I should say e-bike battery fires so far in New York City this year. We've had 13 fatalities. Year's only half over. We're already at double the number of fatalities we had in all of 2022, so we're at quadruple the rate. It's really terrible and unacceptable, and there's a lot we have to do to tackle this crisis. We certainly need better enforcement when there are locales like the one that caught in flames earlier this week, so that when they're unsafe conditions, the fire department goes in there and takes action, and ultimately we'll need to close the store if those are not remedied. And we do encourage members of the Republic to report when you see unsafe conditions, because often the public can be eyes and ears in these cases. But there's much more we need to do. There are 65,000 delivery workers in the city, the vast majority using these kind of battery-powered bikes, and many are using the older, not older, but lower quality batteries that are not rated by the gold standard, which is called Underwriters Laboratories, and therefore they're more vulnerable to catch fire. And we need a program to fix that, probably through some sort of buyback, maybe funded by the app delivery companies themselves, to bring in the older batteries or the lower quality batteries and replace them with the kind of safety rated batteries that don't catch on fire. If you notice, city bikes, which are now increasingly powered by electric assist, very rarely have caught on fire because those are the higher quality safety rated batteries. And finally, we need charging infrastructure around the city so that delivery workers can safely charge. Right now, many are carrying 2, 3 batteries with them throughout the day, swapping them, charging as they go. If we had a safer infrastructure, we could also help to reduce this fire hazard in that way. So lot more to say on that, but I know it's on everyone's mind and wanted to address it here. Any of you who watch Inside City Hall might have caught me last night talking to Errol Lewis about a policy proposal that we put out this week on the impact of artificial intelligence on New York City. So stay with me a moment. This is not sci-fi. This is here and now in New York. With really the rapid growth of new AI tools that are going to change the city, and that could have positive impact, could help cure disease, could improve education, could create new jobs, could make it easier to access city services, could even help community boards. Maybe we could have instantaneous transcription available and archived in 100 languages for every community board committee meeting. But there's also real downside to these technologies that New York City has to deal with. Potential to spread misinformation, to amplify bias, to disrupt the job market, to undermine copyright, a big issue in a city like ours with so many creative professionals, and potentially even greater dangers than that. So we've put out a proposal to look at how the city needs to prepare for this, to manage this, to minimize the threats, to take advantage of the upside in schools, in various city agencies, in workforce development programs, to protect our artistic communities in ways I mentioned, to protect our election integrity in the face of misinformation, and even to make New York City a leader globally in AI safety, and really using the incredible concentration of research institutions here to help advance ethics, morals, safety for AI. So it looks like my team member Andrew just posted the link right there in the chat, and we encourage you to take a look at it, and to let us know if you have any questions on this going forward. So I've talked for a while. I think I'm going to pause there. I don't know if the format and the time allows for any questions. I'm so happy to take one or two. Also, if you need to move on, totally understand. Thanks so much, CB2. It's great to see all of you.
Thank you very much, Borough President. Are there any questions? Thank you so much.
I see no hands.
I see no hands, so we are now going to go to public session and.
Thanks again. Great to see everybody. Have a great meeting.
Bye.
Great, so I need someone to elevate people. I'm not a host. Okay, great. So we are going to hear from Andrew Stern. Eddie Siegel, Andrew Stern, and Jesse Lang are the first three. And then we will
Eddie Siegel and
Edward Siegel,
and
Andrew Stern,
Yep.
and Jesse Lang.
Jesse Lang got the third. Okay, they've all been elevated.
Great.
And to remind all our speakers, you have 2 minutes.
Oh, great. We've been working on that.
Great. So Edward or Eddie, if you'd like to go.
Yeah, thank you. Hi, board members. Hi, BP Levine. I live in CB2. I'm really excited with the Canal Street project to see the Soho NoHo rezoning finally bear some fruits and give us the opportunity to build 25 units of affordable housing and 100 units total. I just signed my lease renewal a couple of weeks ago in my apartment, and doing my due diligence. I like my place, but I thought I'd check out what's out there in the market, and the cheapest 1-bedrooms in my neighborhood still had lines out the door for their open houses. It's a very recent reminder to me that we are still in the midst of a dire housing crisis, and it hits our neighborhood just as bad as it does everywhere else in New York. I hope we follow the recommendation of the earlier committee and approve this, and the many other hopeful buildings will be building out of this rezoning. Thank you, and I hope you support.
Thank you. Next, we'll hear from Andrew Stern.
Hi, thank you so much. I'd also like to testify in support of the 277 Canal proposal, which will provide crucial affordable housing that's badly needed in Soho. The design of this building, as many people have seen, is a beautiful design by Morris Adjemi, who is one of New York's best interpreters of our unique architectural tradition. It honors Soho's industrial history while also completely preserving the building underneath it. I'd like to note that in its current design, it fits the historical context at 12 stories, which is on par with many of the historical cast iron buildings along Broadway. But most importantly, this building will provide badly needed affordable units to one of Manhattan's richest neighborhoods. Soho was once a community for artists and immigrants, but decades with no new homes have caused prices to rise, forcing them out of our neighborhood. This process can only be slowed or stopped with the addition of new and affordable housing, such as at 277 Canal. CB2 has the opportunity to show that preservation and new homes can exist hand in hand, and I encourage the approval of this design. It's important that we encourage LPC to allow the unit to remain at a full 100 units, as this will preserve the full 25 units of affordable housing. I hope the full community board will honor the positive recommendation of the Housing and Land Use Committee and endorse this project. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we will hear from Jesse Lang. And then the next three coming up are Austin Celestin, Christopher Courtney, and Ben Wetzler.
Hi, thank you so much for the opportunity to speak in support of the housing proposal for 277 Canal Street. I was really excited to see this proposal and even more excited to see that the committee said that they support the housing, and I'm hoping that the full community board will say the same and give it their seal of approval. As I think many of us know, this is an area of Manhattan that has been underbuilt for decades and desperately needs new housing. And this is a really exciting opportunity to bring on new housing, including an affordable component that is desperately needed by both people who are currently living in the district and others who would like to move in. So I'm really grateful that the community board is considering this, and I hope that they will vote in favor to pass it. Thank you.
Thank you, Jesse. Next, we have Austin Celestin. Austin Celestin, Christopher Courtney, and Ben.
Austin Celestin.
Can you hear me?
Is Austin?
Yes, we can.
Great. For
Perfect.
2 minutes.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for the opportunity to speak on the landmarks application for 277 Canal Street. As many people are probably aware, this is the fruits of what the Soho rezoning was supposed to give us. And since the project is in the historic district, it has to go to review. And I think it's a good sign that the landmarks committee already approved the housing and said that it's a good application. And it's definitely very responsive to the existing historic character. And this is what we said was going to happen from the rezoning. This is the housing that we need. And this is housing that is long overdue in a neighborhood like Soho that is very high income, very transit rich. I think we all have stories and testimonies and anecdotes from friends, family, relatives, you name it, who have had trouble finding housing. And it's in part due to the utter lack of housing that has been built in the city. And Soho is a major culprit in that. And I am very glad to see that finally the fruits of the Soho rezoning are coming to fruition and going through landmarks and going through the appropriate process. So I urge everyone on the board to vote in support of the application so it can come to fruition and we can see more projects like this come through the process. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next, we have Christopher Courtney, and Ben Wetzler, and then Aaron Ruley.
I think Christopher Courtney said he wasn't going to be speaking. That's what he put in the chat.
Oh, let me check the chat. Thank you. Okay, great. So then we will move on next to Ben Wetzler.
Okay, hi. Thanks everybody for giving me the opportunity to speak. I just want to echo what some of the other people who have already spoken said, that I am in support of the project. I thought that all of the landmarks committees, the position that that CB2's landmarks committee took was totally reasonable in supporting the housing and asking for some really modest changes to the lighting and to the commercial space. And so I would encourage the board to echo that, and as some of the other speakers said, to make sure that in any resolution that you pass that would then go to Landmarks Preservation Commission, that you would say specify that you do not want to see reductions in the amount of housing that could be added to the proposal. Thank you.
Great. And before we go to our next speaker, I just want to clear up that we are hearing public testimony on 277 Canal Street, and that is for a landmarks application that is before us. It is not a land use and housing application. Thank you. Next, we'll go to Erin.
Hi, good evening. I'm Erin Ruley. I'm a principal at Higgins, Quays, Barth and Partners, and we're pleased to be the historic preservation consultants for the project you're hearing so much about tonight, 277 Canal Street. First, I'd like to start by offering thanks to the Landmarks Committee members, members of the board and the public for their review and comments the other evening. We're grateful for the thoughtful discussion and that the project was so well received. This is a really important project. It's developed by United American Land and designed by Morris Ajmi Architects. It's the first project, as you've heard, in the Soho Cast Iron Historic District that realizes the goals of the Soho rezoning to create affordable housing. And it does so in a carefully designed way and in keeping with the context of Soho. We believe this is a very specific case for a specific building, and it does not open the door for expansions on the character defining buildings in the historic district. This project brings new life to its corner of Canal Street through restoration, revitalized retail, and good design, while delivering much needed housing units and economic diversity. It's a unique project that we believe is not only appropriate, but provides greater benefits at the civic scale. We look forward to remaining in close communication with the board on this important project, and we thank you for your review. I think Christopher Courtney represents Morris Ajmi Architects, and we're both here this evening and can certainly respond to any questions if there are any during the fuller discussion. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Erin. Next, we're going to go to Brendan Fitzgerald and then Pete Davies.
Is Brendan already up as a?
Is Brendan Fitzgerald here in person?
He's having Zoom difficult. Okay, we'll have Pete go first and then we'll go to Brendan next.
So Pete is Pete Davies.
Pete Davies.
I'm sorry, there's two Pete Davies. I don't know which one it is. I just don't promote them both,
Yeah.
then we'll see what happens.
Still only get 2 minutes.
1 minute for Davies.
Okay, is it my turn?
Yes, it is.
Great, thank you very much. First, I just want everybody to know that DeSalvio Playground, the water feature is open. It has been returned to the community after repairs. Thank you to our council member, Christopher Marte, for coordinating all that work and getting that done. On 277 Canal Street, yes, we support Broadway Residents Coalition, supports the landmarks resolution, and it's good to hear from all the other speakers that they support the changes that we're asking for, which include more restrictions on the signage, including no internally illuminated signage and no oversized retail signage. Also that they support the addition of ADA access to the subway station, which is something that we have been pushing for at this intersection for a number of years. That's in line with city policy. And we hope that the developer will see the light on that. I do note that the developer has submitted to Landmarks Preservation Commission their presentation materials, and they made no changes despite all of the recommendations that they heard from Community Board 2. So I hope this is a process that they work on and make this a better project for the entire community and for the very handsome plan that Morris Ajmi has put forward. Thank you to the committee and thank you to the board, and good night.
Thank you, Pete. And Brendan Fitzgerald is back on. No. Computer. Okay. We will continue to the next item. We're going to finish the online public testimony, and then I'll go to in the room. So next we have Chandler Forsyth from the NoHo bid.
Here you are. Hang on. Who's next?
All right. Good evening, everyone. I'm Chandler Forsyth, Program Manager at the NoHo Business Improvement District. I'm signing on just to share a little bit more about what we do at the bid and give details about our annual meeting happening next week. The NoHo bid is a neighborhood nonprofit.
Chandler, sorry to interrupt, but you need to speak a little louder.
Oh, sorry. Is that better?
Not much.
Sorry, I'm not sure what's wrong with my mic. I'll just speak up a little. Okay, good. The NoHo Bid is a neighborhood nonprofit that served our community since 1996. As a business improvement district, our organization is comprised of property owners, businesses, residents, and government officials who all work to improve NoHo's quality of life and promote its economic and cultural vitality. We provide supplemental sanitation services like graffiti removal. We have a clean team that is out on the street every single day, making sure NoHo is looking clean and beautiful. We provide greenery across the neighborhood, business support, neighborhood marketing, and a lot of other great resources. Next Wednesday, June 28th at 4 p.m., we're hosting our annual meeting where we elect board members and share what the bid has been up to over the past year. If you live in NoHo, or if you just want to sign on and learn a little bit more about what's happening in NoHo, we would absolutely love to have you join us to hear more about what we've been up to. In the chat, I'll drop a link with more details on how to sign up for the annual meeting. Thanks for having me, and if you ever have any questions about what the bid does or think you have an issue that the bid might be able to help out to, we're always here, so please reach out to us. When I drop the link, it'll have our contact info as well. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Chandler. Next, we're gonna believe if there's anyone else, if you signed up for the public session, this is not including elected officials or elected official representatives. But if you're online and you signed up for the public session, I didn't call your name, if you could just drop something in the chat. Otherwise, we're going to move on to our public session speakers that are in the room. Darlene Lutz. Am I addressing you at the board?
Tony, the little button on top, if you would.
Oh. Hi, good evening, everybody. That was done for you, Turner. Yeah. This does feel.
It's kind of tough because we know we have people.
Hi, everybody. I came from across the street. I wasn't my neighbor. I know all of you very well, but I'm Darlene Lutz. You hear from every month. I was president of the First Precinct Community Council until the end of the month. The First Precinct encompasses the area that I've repeated, many times before, basically Soho and Soho West. And the community council's function is to really, get a liaison between the community itself and the precinct. We talk a lot about, what we mean by enforcement. So it's a good thing to interact with our police, when we're not in crisis. There will be the meeting actually just ended a few minutes ago for the month, which we scheduled due to the holiday weekend. But the next event, and this is citywide, it's National Night Out. First Precincts will be on August 1st, as the rest of the precincts, and ours will be at the Seaport Plaza between Pier 16 and 17, between 6 and 8 p.m. Come on down, meet everybody. There's heavy law enforcement, FBI, it's crazy. And our next meeting will be in September. So I hope everybody has a good summer, and good to see you all. Where thank you. Lois.
Yes. My chair is
Lois.
I was just curious about whether the First Precinct will be, or it has been hybrid, or was it always online, and is what's going to happen in September?
That was discussed. There's a little bit of a bubble about whether we have bylaws or whether we have guidelines and whether we are under OML. What was discussed is that we can't do hybrid, we don't have the technology for it. But it was discussed that our meetings would go back to alternating between a Zoom and an in-person month by month.
Thank you.
Dr. Smith? Okay.
How was the enforcement for the illegal cannabis?
I don't have the stats on that. I know Community Board One has really been on top of their program, but I believe that the enforcement has to come from the New York City Sheriff, and that's not in the NYPD's purview. They do assist. So I did not get any current stats. I just heard the stats. They're slightly up in First Precinct for this month on some levels. I can give you that information if you'd like the stats from their area.
Thank you. When you say slightly up, what do you mean?
There's been an uptick in rape and robberies in the first precinct in the last month. So this, the crime stats are up.
Thank you. No other questions?
Thank you, Darrell. Moment's privilege.
Sure.
Thank you.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you in person too. Hi, everybody. I'm Mark Tiller. I'm the district manager, and I wanted to interrupt for just a very brief second to offer my thanks to our staff. I know we're on a tight timeline, but we're also grateful to Michael Filbert for the opportunity to be in this beautiful room. I'm sure Susan will be talking about that later. Thanks very much. I know we're on time.
Thank you. So next, we have two more online and then we'll close the public session. Dylan Kennedy said that you signed up. We do not have your name on, but I will let you speak this time. No, I'm not a host.
You are now. Let's see him though. Yeah, I'm looking for it. Any D for Dylan? You ask him to raise his hand. Oh, okay.
And then Jane, I'll call on you next.
It's fine. Here he is. Did you get the other?
Dylan, you have 2 minutes.
Hello, can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Hi, my name is Dylan Kennedy. I work around the area. I'm in Soho all the time, though I don't live there. I'd love to live there, but it is quite pricey. So I'm just speaking in support of as much housing. And that includes as much market rate housing and with the affordable housing that comes with that as possible. The reviews that were presented sound good, but just the main point being we want to preserve as many of those units as possible. And so long as all the changes, which they sound like that, are not affecting that, that sounds good and the project has my complete support. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dylan. Next, we're going to hear from Jane Carey from the Whitney.
Thanks so much, Valerie. Hi, everybody. Jane Carey, Government and Community Affairs from the Whitney Museum of American Art. Thanks for fitting me in. I'm here to share a little update from the institution. June's Pride celebration all month long at the Whitney. I want to thank the community board for its support of our street closure application for our celebration on was supposed to be on Friday, June 9th. We had to cancel it because of the weather conditions, but also on Saturday, June 10th, when we were able to welcome in the community for free art making, photo booths, performances, and other giveaways on the street. We saw about over 2,000 people come through, so it was really fun celebration. This year, instead of pushing it all into 4 days, we have Pride things happening all month long. At this point, what's next? Next week on the 28th is our Pride Member Night event. But I did want to flag that one of our most popular things that we've offered in the last few years is our Queer History Walking Tour, which takes people around the neighborhood to talk about the history of the meatpacking district. And those are always free. We have a number of them scheduled throughout the summer, but this year what's new is we've also have a version online. So I'm going to drop a link in the chat, goes to our Pride Hub, and you can scroll down and find the walking tour online if you want to listen to it at home as a podcast. We're opening a new exhibition and that later on the 28th, it's Inheritance. It's a collection show that traces the legacy and the history across family, historical, and aesthetic lines. It's up until February, so that'll be really exciting. In our headline exhibitions right now, John Quick to See Smith, a retrospective of her work, and Josh Klein is open until mid-August. Lastly, I want to thank the SLA committee for meeting with our museum regarding our restaurant changes. We're adding a new operator, Frenchette Bakery, which will be coming to the museum in early fall. Yeah, appreciate the conversation and dialogue, and we're really excited about this new offering. Okay, 15 seconds left. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Jane. Any questions for Jane? Great. Then I will close the public session and turn this back over to our chair, Susan Kent.
Okay, thank you, Valerie. Next is adoption of the agenda. Do I have an emotion? And second? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any nays, abstentions, refusals? See, hearing none, it is adopted. Okay, now we go to reports from our elected representatives or of our elected officials. Who do we have online? Do we have any of them online?
I think Andrew Chang was there.
Well, I see, first I do see Peter Tsay from the Manhattan DA's office. So Mr. Tsay, if you would like to go first, please. And just to remind all of our speakers, it is 2 minutes.
Good evening, everybody. It's great to see you guys virtually in person. Hope to join you guys, I guess, in September when you have your next meeting. So I just want to give a few brief updates with our office. We've had a very busy month of June, kicking off the summer. A lot of these events or things we're doing is for public safety and community outreach. 2 weeks ago, we had a very successful gun buyback. Took 50 guns off the street. We will have another one later, early in the fall. And in line with that, we're working with State Senator Hoyleman and Assembly Member Rosenthal on ghost gun legislation to close loopholes in that because of technology. Some people are able to produce guns with 3D printers, things like that. And we spent a lot of time recently with community outreach. The Manhattan District Attorney last week hosted a faith-based gathering of spiritual leaders in Manhattan. And also, since summer is beginning, our Saturday Night Lights basketball activities are available now, all parts of the city. And for those who are not athletically inclined, we have our Art of Healing programs, which we just had one in Harlem, and we will have one in Lower Manhattan probably in September, as soon as we find a suitable location to hold that. And finally, I guess everybody will be talking about National Night Out. Our office will be participating at all locations. So if you want to meet with one of our district attorneys and speak with us, we will have tables at all the precinct venues, and that is August 1st. Thank you very much. Stick around for any questions.
We have a question. Please.
Is there a
My
question?
is regarding I'm glad that you're doing something about the guns. That's fabulous. What are we going to do about the knives? And the people that are knifing?
Can you speak up? I'm having problems hearing that.
I'm speaking pretty loud.
You may have to be very close to it. The
Hello,
question
can you hear
had
me?
to do with knives.
Okay,
Hello?
well,
Hello?
hi. Okay, I think your
Hi.
question.
Can you hear me now?
I think I hear you saying, what about the knives? So it's basically.
Right. What are you going to do about all the people being knifed in the subways and all the things that are happening in our city that's making our lives really dangerous? So
Okay.
please tell us
Yeah.
what's going to be happening.
Okay, the answer to that question is regardless if it's a knife, a fist, a gun, okay? If a crime has been committed, if it's an assault, it'll be prosecuted regardless of the type of weapon that is used in the commission of that crime. So I hope that clarifies it. It's regardless of what's used in the commission of the crime. Doesn't affect how the charges are brought up. All right, just to say we had a case where we have a murder case. Just hands were used. Okay, they get prosecuted the same way. Our prosecutors review, work with NYPD and bring the appropriate charges.
Thank you. Seeing no other questions, I want to ask all of the representatives, please raise your hand so that we can elevate you, we can identify you and elevate you so that you can speak. I have a note, is Councilmember Botcher on? Is he?
Yeah.
No, he's not here.
He was on.
I did see, but I thought I saw Tevin. Who do we have?
I see hands from Dan Mosher, who I believe.
Oh,
is-
yes, please elevate.
Okay.
He's from Senator Kavanaugh's office.
Correct. And then Henry Lynn, I'm not sure what office he's with.
He is from Marshall's office.
Very good. And then Carolyn Wexelbaum is Hoyle.
Well, correct.
So I'm raising all three of those. And then Biani Rodriguez
Yes.
is
From Curly Bears.
well, let's keep it for there for now.
Okay, I see Nicole and Caroline. And I see Henry Lynn.
You want to tell him to.
Nicole, why don't you go ahead?
Hey there, everybody. Eric jumped off a second ago, but he actually will be back to say hello. Happy Pride, first of all. And secondly, I just want to give a belated shout out to all the fathers out there. Happy belated Father's Day. We had some legislation introduced this month. Just wanted to let you guys know that Eric introduced Intro 1065, which is the Urban Forest Master Plan. This will require the Parks Department to create a detailed plan which will protect and increase the city's urban forest. It'll increase both tree and vegetation cover across the city and requires the establishment of goals and to expand and protect the urban forest. I know we're on short, I'm trying to make it quick. We also did he introduced Intro 1064, increasing oversight of homelessness prevention programs. And what this will do will require the Department of Social Services to report annually on the outcomes and operations of the homelessness prevention and aftercare services, such as the home-based homelessness prevention program, and to report every third year on the department's methodology, findings, and follow-up measures regarding performance audits of vendor contracts for these services. And lastly, he was very happy to be a co-sponsor of Intro 0244 by Speaker Adams and Council Member Shahana Hanif, which will require New Yorkers to separate their food waste from the regular trash with mandatory composting coming soon to all 5 boroughs, to a borough near you. Lastly, I just want to remind everybody, we still have our city housing, our housing clinic on the second Tuesday of every month. And we have our rent-free scree-dree on the second Thursday of every month. So I will put my information in the chat. And if you are interested, please reach out to our office. Thank you very much, everybody, and have a great summer.
Thank you. I do see our council member is on, and so I will turn to him next.
Oh, very quickly. By the way, how lucky am I to have Nicole Barth on my team, right? I'm so lucky. Thank you. Right? Yes. Thank you, Nicole. I heard the tail end of what you said, Nicole, which you very excellently communicated. I'll add a couple things that happened today. The city council passed legislation that by Councilmember Lynn Schulman that I'm a co-prime sponsor of, that will establish a new fine category for landlords who knowingly rent to illegal cannabis shops. And under that legislation, they would get notified that they are renting to an illegal cannabis shop. And then there would subsequently be fines for that. It's just the latest attempt to really get a handle on what's going on with the cannabis industry, the botched rollout that the state did. I am going to be having a Zoom forum. I've been doing the Zoom forums. I'm going to be having one with the czar, the New York City cannabis czar. I don't know if that's what they're calling, or she's the head of that office. And so stay tuned to that for that. Also today, the city council passed legislation of mine that will require the city to conduct a robust outreach and education campaign relating to mental health services that are available to New Yorkers. There are services, mental health services that are available to insured and uninsured New Yorkers, but the city is not adequately promoting those and getting the word out about those. This will require that to happen. We announced this in the last couple of weeks that we have coming to our neighborhoods, in addition to mandatory composting, which we passed, in the next week, we're going to be getting the compost kiosks on the street, where people will be able to deliver their organic waste to these kiosks, and they'll get a code. They'll learn how to do it. They'll be instructed on what can go in there and what can't. They'll get a code that will provide significantly more opportunities for people to dispose of their compost waste all over the district. We'll be distributing a map of those locations when we get them. Today, I had a lengthy meeting with the new captain of the 6th precinct in advance of this weekend, Pride weekend, but also to discuss the public safety issues facing our community. We're going to be having a follow-up. I'm going to arrange a follow-up meeting with him and the district attorney's office and the Department of Social Services and the city's Office of Mental Health to really help him and his team get the support that they need, because they need a lot more support than they're currently receiving regarding the high social service needs of the population that they keep interacting with low-level offenses. I don't want to talk for too long because I know Nicole already spoke, but I'm happy to take any questions.
Okay, Lucia.
Everyone's used this week.
Great to see you, Eric. So I have a couple of questions regarding composting. Number one, whose responsibility to do the composting? Will it fall on the shoulders of the property owners? And how will that be enforced? Will you expect property owners to go through the tenants' garbage to store it? I would say this is demeaning, unhealthy, and totally disgusting.
I would never make you go through someone's garbage. It's going to be very much like, actually, just like recycling. It'll just be another category of waste that will be picked up by the Department of Sanitation. When the Department of Sanitation offered this before the pandemic, before they discontinued it, many buildings did participate in it. And it's the number one way to help reduce the rat population, by removing the organic waste out of the trash bag that's going to be on the sidewalk. But let's talk on the side about it, because I'd love to talk you through it. Look, it's not going to be the easiest thing in the world. It's going to take a lot of adjustment, and we're going to work through it together.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, Ryan.
Can you hear me from here?
Yes.
Is the mayor going to veto the city FEP's legislation that the council passed with supermajorities to expand access to these vouchers and to speed access? My understanding is he's moving to use executive action to suspend the 90-day shelter stay rule, but under the guise of potentially using that as a reason to veto the legislation, which also expands access to the vouchers to a broader swath of low-income New Yorkers. So do you think he's going to veto it? And if he vetoes it, will the council override that veto?
The council will override the veto, and the message has been sent to him that would happen if he vetoes it. So we are hoping that he will not veto it, but time will tell.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes.
Hi, this is Zach. Just a question about the composting kiosks. As someone who composts in Union Square every week, where will those be located, and will the community board have input into their distribution around CB2?
They are going to be distributed throughout our district, and you absolutely should have input into where they're going. I think, Nicole, we should get on the phone with DSNY and connect them with Community Board 2 and ensure that we go over the list of locations in advance to make sure they're all okay, so that we're not going back and making changes later. Better to get them right the first time.
Yes, Janine.
Can you hear me? This is Janine Kiley. It's my understanding that most of them have been installed last week and this week and the week before. I saw a guy installing them today. He showed yesterday, and he showed me his list on the west side. So the locations are there, and there's still a few more coming online. And you download the NYC Compost app. You can look at the map and see where the one is closest to your home, but they tend to be on busier intersections.
There's your answer.
That's
Okay,
great. Yeah, I haven't seen them yet, but I'm told they're like going in, so that's great news.
Okay, I see no more questions. Oh,
there's
I'm sorry, I
some
have hands up.
questions.
My apologies. Ritu.
Hi. Hi, Eric. Quick question. I was wondering if you could give us some insight into why Steve did not bring up the lowering the speed limit legislation, why he let that basically, sit out this session.
Not being a state legislator, I can tell you, well, for just so folks know, Rich is referring to Sammy's law, and what all that would do is give New York City the ability to set our own speed limit. And I would defer to Deborah's office, but I will say that in the council, we had many outer borough lawmakers in particular who live in car-centric districts who opposed it pretty strongly. And I think that dynamic probably exists at the state level too. That's my guess, not being there. I would imagine that that's what he's run into with his caucus.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ivy, and I will have to take that as the last question because we are on a very tight deadline. Please go ahead.
It's a quick comment, Eric. I just want to thank you for all the work for the infestation of rats, the short timing of leaving trash out and picking up. I live in Little Italy near Chinatown. It's made a tremendous difference. And I just want to thank you because that was a lot of work.
Thank you so much. And thank you so much. Great to hear. And the next thing that's coming is requiring restaurants to put their bags out in plastic containers instead of bags. And they had a hearing today with rulemaking for that. I submitted testimony about expressing concern about allowing the businesses to put plastic containers out on the sidewalks right up against their buildings, and urge them to think of ways to free up more space. But thank you for that feedback.
Thank you.
Thank you. Let's go next. I see Dan Mosier from Senator Kavanaugh's office.
Hey folks, good to see you all. Dan Mosier, Senator Kavanaugh's new chief of staff. I know I've worked with some of you in my former capacity as his legislative director. Used to be Albany based, now based down in New York. Really ingratiating myself now in the community side of things now that the legislative session has ended, and really looking forward to meeting you all in person at various events throughout the next coming weeks and months. Just wanted to give a few quick updates. Obviously, we just wrapped up our legislative session up in Albany. A special shout out to my friends over in the assembly who worked an extra week and did some good work yesterday. In fact, passing 5 of Senator Kavanaugh's bills that had already passed the Senate and will now move on to be signed by the governor. These are all housing related bills. So, obviously housing was the top focus of session. throughout the year, from the budget talks to the waning weeks. And we had very high expectations, obviously didn't get close to where we want to be. But in the last days, the Assembly did pass bills that the Senate had passed to deal in certain aspects of the housing sector, both for tenants and for property owners and for homeowners. We passed two bills dealing with rent stabilized tenants, stopping the Frankensteining loophole of combining apartments to get apartments out of rent stabilization, and cleaning up some former HSDPA fixes. And then for property owners, we passed two really helpful bills, one being a new J51 program that'll allow property owners to benefit from this program in a much more convenient manner, as well as passing the Housing Affordability, Resiliency, Energy Efficiency and Investment Act, otherwise known as HREA, which modernizes a lot of the city HPD's programs to facilitate not only the building of affordable housing, but the support and resiliency of housing, helping property owners come into compliance with local law 97 and additional things. And then for homeowners, we, wow, way running out of time. Homeowners, we passed a bill to clean up a lot of civil deed theft violations that's been a scourge throughout the city, based on a housing committee hearing that we held last fall, and that will go to the governor's desk as well. Again, I know I'm running out of time. On the community side, just in case not everyone was aware, the MTA is currently holding hearings on their proposed fare increase from $275 up to $290. There are two additional meetings. If folks would like to sign up to comment, you can also submit a comment online. I'll throw that information into the chat. Maybe if the board staff could circulate that as well. And just to say, again, really looking forward to working with you all, to getting to meet with you all, to growing our presence, especially in the new parts of our district that we picked up when redistricting. And again, looking forward to meeting you all. Thank you for all your work, and happy Pride.
Thank you, Dan. I see no questions. So why don't we go, Tevin from Congressman Goldman's office? I saw him.
Absolutely. Thank you, Susan. And good evening, Community Board 2. It's always good to see all of you. I'm always pretty brief, so I will just say three quick things. First off, happy Pride, as many of my colleagues have said. We're very thankful to have Stonewall in our district, as well as many other historic pieces of New York 10 that have been so instrumental in the fight for queer liberation and for LGBTQ rights. So thank you so much. And I just want to mention just a few quick things that the congressman has been up to. The biggest thing is a lot of you know that, as we've heard tonight, about the high prices in rent. And I would like to just announce, if you have not seen, that the congressman has been a founding member of the Congressional Renters Caucus, which is actually one of the new caucuses on the Hill that is proposing and going to look into how we can fight the affordable housing crisis across the country. So that is one of the biggest priorities that we have had in the district, as we have, I believe, the fourth biggest group of developments of public housing, but also, as we're seeing in New York City, a housing crisis. We're looking to tackle that. Obviously, Father's Day was this past weekend, and he is also part of the Dad's Caucus. And him and a couple of his colleagues actually introduced a resolution and a bill called the Healthy Families Act, which is a federal paid leave act for anyone that is having children or as a parent. And then finally, last but not least, as everyone knows, we have been getting a lot of migrants in the district, and we have been calling all of our and having conversations with all of the public universities and private universities in New York 10, which we have almost actually 10 of them, to speak about how we can house migrants and be good neighbors to our new visitors in New York City. That's all I have. If you do have a passport, please reach out to us. We have a lot of people reaching out about their passports. Let us know. And that is all. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Tevin. I do not see any questions. Carolyn, why don't you go next? From Senator Boyleman Siegel's office.
Yep, thank you, Susan. My name is Caroline Wexelbaum. I'm from State Senator Brad Hoylman Siegel's office. I have dropped the board report in the chat, and I will also try to be brief. Senator Hoylman Siegel passed 76 bills through the Senate this year. And as you know, the legislative session just finished. I'll just talk about one of them really quickly, called the Trans Safe Haven Bill, which provides legal protection for families seeking gender affirming care. And it also protects the doctors who provide this care. And so there's a lot of information about all of his bills in our board report. And also he will be marching in Pride this weekend. So if anyone wants to march with us, there's also a link in the board report that you can use to register and meet us to march. And happy Pride.
Thank you, Carolyn. I see no questions. So let's go to Biani Rodriguez from Council Member Rivera's office.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Biani Rodriguez from the Office of Councilmember Carolina Rivera. I just wanted to give you some legislative updates. So Councilmember Rivera passed the Open Cultural Bill on June 8th. This bill creates a comprehensive, streamlined process for nonprofit, cultural, and arts organizations to use streets for events and performances that are free to the public. And also, as Councilmember Batra said about the city council passing the bill to address the number of unlicensed smoke shops. As you know, our office receives numerous complaints about these shops selling cannabis and tobacco without a license. The product in the stores is not regulated and they undermine public safety. We have worked with cities, state agency, community boards, neighborhood associations, and city council has even conducted undercover investigations, and yet we still find that enforcement mechanisms are falling short to address the problem. And the bill passed today aims to address the problem by prohibiting property owners from knowingly renting space to a business selling unlicensed cannabis or tobacco. The process is when a business receives a violation from a relevant agency related to the unlicensed sale or distribution of cannabis, cigarettes, or e-cigarettes, the property owner will be notified. And if they do not take action to ensure that the unlicensed sales are not occurring, the property owner can receive a violation. And if you have any questions about this piece of legislation, you can always email our office at district2@council.nyc.gov, and our legislative director will get back to you. We also have some upcoming events. On June 29th, we have a rental freeze clinic with the Department of Finance. You can sign up for screen and jury programs. This will take place at our district office from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. I'm also gonna add the flyer on the chat. Okay, and also we're gonna celebrate Pride. The whole office is gonna be marching, so hopefully I get to see some of you there. And on July 8th, we're having a helmet giveaway with the Department of Transportation at the Augusta Sun Gardens playground. Oh, I forgot to mention our local Law 97 webinar recording is available. So if it's on our website, on our Facebook, if you want to see it, it's there.
Thank you, Biani. Yes, Ryder.
I think the council passed Councilman Rivera's bill about a month ago to create these review teams to assess cases of folks who are being held at Rikers to see if they could have their cases resolved without them staying in custody as a way to reduce the Rikers population. So I just wanted to ask about what's happened since that bill passed. Are these teams operating? Has there been a decline in folks who don't need to be at Rikers who have been there otherwise? So just curious what's going on with that.
Yeah, thank you for asking. I can get back to the team on that and reach back to you. My email, I'm gonna put my email in the chat and all the information I provided today, so feel free to reach out.
Great, thanks. It's a great bill, so just want to make sure it's happening.
Thank you. Seeing no more questions. I see Jasper Scott from Assemblymember Lee's office.
Hi guys, how are we doing? My name is Jasper Scott. I'm speaking for Assemblymember Grace Lee tonight. I'm happy to be with all you here tonight. As Dan from Senator Kavanaugh's office mentioned, the Assembly just finished session in the late hours or early hours of today, this morning, I should say. Although session is supposed to end back earlier in June, the Assembly was a bit delayed and had some more bills to pass this week. So in our first term in office, we are really proud to have played a leadership role in passing some really great legislation. A lot of it having to do with the protection and support and representation of marginalized and minority communities, including Asian American or AAPI communities. We're really proud to have passed a bill to make Lunar New Year a public school holiday across the state, which is a first in the nation bill, as well as to have helped pass a bill to make Diwali a public school holiday in New York City, and to have introduced with Senator John Liu a bill to bring the teaching of AAPI or Asian American history to New York City's or to New York State's public school curriculums. As session is over, we're going to sort of shift gears and to a community focus for the summer. So we are going to get ready to be hosting lots of events throughout the summer, including family days, resource fairs, and fun random things like paper shredding events. Our next event is next Wednesday, where we will be helping low-income seniors and or tenants with disabilities apply for screen and DREA benefits. Events like that will continue throughout the summer. Shameless plug, we have a newsletter that we've been putting out bi-weekly that we just got off the ground that if you're interested in hearing updates from our team or receiving notice about events in the community or resources that you might find helpful, we would love to have you on the mailing list for that. So I'll put all that information in the chat and I'd be happy to stick around for any questions you guys have. Thank you.
Okay, but I don't see any questions. So thank you very much. Next, Henry Lin from Councilmember Marte's office.
Hi, everybody. Very nice to see everybody here today at CB2. I'm going to give a quick update on first, our office will want to share our condolence to people who passed away and affected by the 80 Madison Street fire. It is in our district. In a matter of fact, it's actually just a block and a half from a block from our office. We want CM Marte want to talk about the battery issue in our city. I want to give people a little bit, a small update on that. The council member voted in favor of the city council package of legislation, which banned the sale of e-bikes with uncertified and or refurbished batteries. And we also supported two other bills. One bill, Intro 0949 by council member Power, which would establish a buyback program for uncertified e-bikes, and also Intro 1000 by Councilmember Lynn Schultman, which would make delivery companies responsible for e-bike incidents that involve their delivery workers. We are working closely with the two council members' office to advance these bills. In terms of next step, we will further collaborate with FDNY with respect to inspections and enforcement. It is worth noting that many people who use uncertified e-bikes are delivery workers. They need bikes with heavy-duty batteries to work long shifts and do not have the means to purchase certified one. We are exploring legislations to hold delivery apps accountable for forcing their workers to make ultra-fast delivery while not providing them with adequate equipment. And so we are exploring legislation that will help on that front. Our office continue to work with people who are affected by the fire to help them find relocation arrangement and housing. Also, besides that, like Pete mentioned before, we pushed the Parks Department and the Department of Building to fix cracks in an adjacent wall at the DeSalvio playground. That was a safety risk for kids. And now the water feature area is fully open for summer. We also pushed to pass a bill in the city council that would expand DRE and SCRE eligibility to Battery Park City and former Mitchell-Lama building across the city. An expansion that has been in the works for years and now is finally passed. We continue to advocate around a better permanent outdoor dining program than what proposed. On that one that will reflect the sanitation, safety, and quality of life and an enforcement issue we have seen in this temporary program. Also, we are working closely with the 6th precinct in regards to the incident happened in Washington Square Park. From what we know is that it was an incident involving two homeless men stabbing another homeless person. That corner of the park has been an issue for a very long time. I think the council member had worked to close that part of the park in certain hours. Maybe there are other avenues we could explore to keep that part of the park safe. We will continue to monitor the situation. And I'm here to answer any question that you may have. Happy Pride Month and happy Father's Day. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, Dr. Smith.
Yeah. Can you hear me? Did I understand you to say that the fire department is going to be the people who are going to be enforcing the battery issue?
From what I understood, the FDNY, also the consumer protection, I think it's the Bureau of Consumer Protection would be in charge.
Thank you.
Thank you. We have here Assembly Member Blix, Roy Rees, back there. We actually have one first. My representative.
Yeah, thank you. I don't know where I should. Oh, yeah, that's fine. I'm sorry. I just want to say, first thing, it's a pleasure to see all of you together in one room, first time. Some of you I've interacted with and met, and maybe we should exchange some emails, and a lot of people I still don't know, and please, I welcome you to talk to me. I'm back there, you just go inside, whatever. All right, some updates. As you all know, and my colleagues have mentioned before, the session is over. And, that it has been frustrating, and at the same time, we've accomplished some things. I think we didn't get past the cost, but we passed the Clean Slate Act. There are some other pieces of legislation that Deborah would have liked to pass as well, but didn't. The Extended Producer Responsibility Act, the HEAT Act, the Climate Community Protection Fund. Those things might have to wait for next year. But we did manage to pass last week's session some good important bills, especially related to environmental conservation, which is what Deborah is now chairing. Since January, we passed the banning of wildlife killing contests. We passed the Birds and Bees Protection Act. We passed the Slaughter of Horses Act. We passed the streams, and cool thing out there. We passed the Nation bill, and we were thrilled to co-sponsor the bill about the warehouse, closing the warehouse moves that leads to all of the primary sliding and stuff that happened. So with that being said, I am working on 2 events in July, 2 different dates. the same event, we are presenting with the MTA about Omni and how that works and how to link your reduced fare benefit to your Omni account. We're doing this with the collaboration of the Greenwich House Adult Centers. We are doing a July 2nd. Now we'll have flyers to distribute about this. July 12th, we're doing it at the center of the square, and July 19th, we're doing it at the Independence Plaza. We're gonna have a 10-minute presentation that will be there, and we'll do a Q&A, and I'll be there. So, and as you might have heard, the MTA is also doing the hearings on the raising of the fares. We have some information about that and how to submit comments and register to speak. I have these packets right out there on the table. Thank you so much. And I'm there if you want comments.
I do have a quick question.
Sorry about that.
Is
Yeah.
Deborah still the chair of RF?
No, she changed that role.
I've heard you say a different one, that's why I asked.
Yeah, she hasn't carried it.
Yeah, I want to echo the question that Ritu had asked Councilmember Botcher, but it's about the assembly. So Tammy's law, which apparently had support of 2/3 of the assembly members to allow New York City to set our own speed limits, failed. The speaker didn't bring it to a vote, and in spite of this really widespread ostensible support, which seems to suggest that maybe the support wasn't as vigorous behind the scenes as it was in public. So I wonder, do you all have any insight into why the speaker didn't bring this bill to a vote, what might happen next session, and what level of support there is amongst the people who maybe publicly say they sign on but aren't advocating strong enough behind the scenes?
Fortunately.
Right.
I don't have a good answer for you on that.
Okay.
I don't have the insight of what could have happened. But if you want an answer, maybe I can just bump it up to the legislative director.
Yeah,
Maybe
that would be
we'll have a
great.
better answers. What's not overnight?
Great.
What laws have passed or will pass to help small property owners that have to deal with very low rents and rent stabilized and rent controlled apartments? What help are you giving small property owners?
Not sure how to answer that. I don't have information on that, and yeah, I'm sorry. I'm not sure. how to
The
answer
answer
that.
is zero.
Sorry.
Zero.
But if you write to me, and I'm happy to get you some answer.
We'll talk.
Okay, absolutely.
I'll see you in the back.
Yeah,
Thank you.
you will talk offline. Yeah, so we have to keep moving. I think I have called on all of the representatives. Is there anybody else that I have not called on? Please raise your hand if I neglected to call on you before. Seeing none, then that is going to end that. There are no hands up. Excellent. Okay, so that is the end of that, and then we can go to my report. Okay. First, I do want to also thank the Jackie Robinson Foundation for use of this beautiful facility. It is very nice that our first time back. This. I want to thank all of you for showing up and for attending. I know that we are now responsible for complying with the open meetings law. So just to remind people that going forward, you do have to be aware of keeping your committee chairs informed of your attendance. It's just simply going to be a fact of life. And I do want to remind people that when they participate online, they do have to keep their cameras on. That's how presence is defined under the law. Not to confuse anybody, but you may hear that the mayor did sign a new emergency order. It is based on the economic impact of COVID. It does not affect us. Just to get that out of the way. I know our new members were mentioned. Ann Hager, Julian Borky, Zachary Zaz, Erica Olson, and Emma Smith. Welcome. I'm sure you will be seeing them in our meetings. Make them welcome, please. We've already had interest in certain committees, so Anne will be joining Schools and Education, and Emma will be joining Human Services. This is the time of year. By next week, I will have reached out to everybody in terms of committees and to those that are short on members and finding spaces for everybody. I do want to announce that I have reconfigured the institutions portion of the Arts and Institutions Committee is now going to be paired with Economic Development. So instead of Economic Development and Small Business, it will now be Economic Development and Institutions, chaired by Valerie De La Rosa. And now we will have a dedicated working group just for arts and culture. One item from Borough Board this month, we had a robust discussion and vote on the City of Yes carbon neutrality. It was a unanimously supported resolution. It is one of 3 City of Yes proposals, what the others being housing opportunity and economic opportunity. If anyone is interested in hearing about the economic opportunity, there was a presentation held this month that is now on YouTube and the DEP's website if you're interested in learning more about that. Update on 388 Hudson. We received a combined response from HPD, DEP, and Clarks in responding to the resos that we passed in March and April. We also, our most recent status meeting was quite positive. It appears that the agencies are regularly engaging with one another, and they are actively considering the ideas that we are putting forth on how to use the site most effectively, including the maximization of affordable housing. We have been invited to participate in the new Pier 76 task force. Yes, Pier 76 is not part of our district, of course, but it is tied to Pier 40 under the legislation in terms of the economic development. So nothing has happened to this point, but we have been invited to participate, which is good so that there is coordination between the 2 sites. Few local things were mentioned briefly before. The DeSalvio Playground water area that was closed, the repairs have been completed. Not all repairs to the park are completed, but this is a great step. Of course, the really important street naming we had on Tuesday. The intersection of Fifth Avenue and Washington Square North has now been co-named Edie Windsor and Thea Spire Way. For anybody who doesn't recognize those names, Edie Windsor was the named plaintiff in the Supreme Court decision recognizing marriage equality. Our resolution that we had recommending this co-naming was passed in April of last year. On a darker note, it was mentioned in passing, but we had a stabbing yesterday in Washington Square Park in the northwest corner at about 4:30 yesterday afternoon. Sadly, the victim not only passed away, but apparently, according to reports, park visitors were not even aware that this happened until the police arrived. And a final note, I want to recognize that the passing of Zella Jones, a former CB2 member, a community activist, and a passionate advocate for Soho NoHo. I have been informed that there will be a memorial to remember her in about 6 months from now. The office will be providing information as we get it. And I would like to take this time to ask for a moment of silence. Thank you very much. That concludes my report.
Second. Thank you. Thank you all for your help in making this meeting come together. Wouldn't have happened without all the cooperation. A couple of words of thanks. I wanted to personally thank David Gruber for making the connection here at the Jackie Robinson Foundation. Otherwise, we might be in less appealing circumstances. So this is a nice treat for all of us. Thank you, David. And while I'm on the subject, we will be finding offsite venues for other committees, especially for SLA. And I wanted to give a shout out to Wayne Coadler, who has facilitated not one but two meetings for SLA next month at his facility, the Lennox Northwell. I'm not exactly sure what to call it, but that beautiful location. Yeah. So thank you, Wayne. Next week is the end of the fiscal year, and we have twisted a few arms and arranged to get some of our unused personnel services money transferred to places where we can spend it. We're recruiting a few drunken self. No, we are using it to try to find a portable setup that will allow us to use different venues and still do this. Not as beautifully as this, but to do this, which is to have hybrid in-person and Zoom meetings where all of us can hear one another and share. It turns out that the definition of portable is a little different than I remembered it. So this equipment is a little on the bulky side and a little on the heavy side. So maybe we'll also have some Zoom yoga or something to go with it. But if there's anything that you think the office needs to facilitate that, better to tell me this week than the week or especially the week after. I wanted to have a quick note with thanks to Will Banesh and others, including Zach Weinstein, the community, who have helped us to be recognized as the term of art is consulting parties. So with respect to those blessed towers that are 32 feet tall that are supposed to improve Wi-Fi for people who actually don't live here. There is a review process that involves the Federal Communications Commission and a bunch of others and New York State Historic Preservation Office. So we've been recognized, and theoretically we will now be able to submit comments on those things in a more streamlined fashion. And you've already helped me thank the staff, so I'm grateful for all the support we've received in this, as well as all the other things that have been going on with transitions going back in person. So with that, I will say thank you and return to the chair.
Okay, thank you, Mark. That brings to the end the public portion of our meeting. We will now take a second round of attendance to confirm that we are able to start business session.
If I may, Brian, when you're making your notations, would you find some way to notate the difference between those who are here in person and those that are here? Good, okay, thanks. We didn't talk, so.
We did.
No, sorry. Roll call. Susanna Erin.
Here.
Natasha Evanesians. Absent. Keela Usby. Still absent. William Banesh. Here. Dean Berger.
Here.
Artie Ruth. Here. Katie Bernardino.
Here by Zoom.
Yes, gotcha. Anita Brent. Absent. Amy Brenna. Absent. Rich Capopola. Here. And Ritu Chatri.
Present.
There he is.
Online.
Online. Valerie Del Rosa.
Here.
John Paul DeVerna. Absent. Chris Degnes. Here. Art Fitzgerald. Absolute notes. Stella Fitzgerald. Cormac Flint. Yeah. Susan Gammy.
Here.
David Gruber. Here.
Ann Hager,
Here.
Julian Porky.
Here.
Leah Wadler,
Here.
Zach Kazaz,
Here.
Susan Kinch,
Here.
Ryder Kessler,
Here.
Janine Carly,
Here.
Ivy Kwan Tarsi,
Here on Zoom. Thank you.
Tricia Laria,
Here.
Michael Levine,
Here.
Ed Ma.
Here.
Thank you.
Thank
Matt
you.
Metzger,
Here.
Daniel Miller, absent. Erica Olson,
Here.
Juan Osorio.
Here.
Huh?
Yes.
One over here. Sure.
Brian Dayton's here. Donna Raftery,
Here.
Kind of.
Ms. Recko,
Present.
Over Cabono,
Here.
Zach Roberts,
Here.
Rocio Sands,
Present.
Shirley Secunda,
Here.
Kristen Shea. Patricia Siegel,
Here.
Emma Smith,
Here.
Dr. Shirley Smith,
Present.
Chanel Spence,
Here.
Susan Wittenberg,
Here.
Anthony Wong,
Here.
Cheryl Wu,
Here.
and Eugene Yu.
Here, via Zoom.
Very good.
Hi, and Kristen Shea is here. I'm sorry, I stepped away for a moment and you moved beyond me.
Okay, thank you.
We do have more.
34.
Thank you. Okay, so next is a motion to approve the May minutes.
So second.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any nays, abstentions, refusals, it passes. Okay, now our committee reports. I'm going to start with the bylaws working group. This is a resolution to adopt the communications policies and a change to the bylaws. These provisions were originally part of your April report. I neglected to move it forward for last month, but this is the same documents that you received as attached to it. I hope you've had, if there are any questions about them, they are not, there is no change in the standards that we're using. It is simply now putting it in a formal document so that it can be online and easily accessible for anybody who has questions about them. And that's all they are. Anyone have anything to ask about them? Oh, I forgot to mention, if there are no objections, we are going to have an omnibus vote the way we have been. So if there are no objections, I will move this item into the omnibus.
Questions?
Yes.
I forgot to ask you before, what additional work does the bylaws committee have in the future, if any?
Well, none as far as I'm concerned.
So is the committee?
The committee, I think, is on hiatus, unless a member or any board member has something that it would like them to address. But otherwise, that's its nature. It goes dormant for a while and then, as things change, it's every couple of years. Okay, so our next would be human services.
No, that's no resolution.
Okay, so you're just on there. You're just on there. Okay, landmarks.
Thank you. Zella was a great friend of this committee, not always agreeing, but being very useful in the community and with the applications. And she was a master of brevity in her comments. That we had a workshop on that. One clerical error in the notes, the members who were listed as absent without notice were absent with notice. First application is 16 Fifth Avenue, to DOT for a revocable consent to construct, maintain, and use a subsurface snow melt system in front of the building. This was not heard and is presumably coming at the next meeting. 277 Canal Street, application to construct a non-story addition and a penthouse with mechanical equipment above an existing 3-story building to restore its facade and to install new windows. This is a rather distinctive building built as the major theater in about 1928, and the facade is remarkably intact with a subway entrance embedded in the side of the building on Broadway. Recommend approval of the restoration of the existing building and the vertical enlargement and rooftop structure. Denial of the master plan for the commercial ground floor infill unless the size of the letters is reduced and the illumination is of the halo system that has been approved by the commission in similar instances in the district. And there is a provision that implementation of the master plan is overseen by LPC staff to ensure that the number of individual letter signs and blade signs does not result in a cluttered appearance. That consideration be given to having discussions with MTA concerning ADA access to the subway, incorporating this provision into entrance design. It may well be that the discussion would decide that it should be in some different place, not within the building. But we would certainly like for it to be opened up. I need to make a note in the business session, some things came up that had not come up so that in the public session, so the applicant could answer them. And in order to satisfy the record, there was a June committee meeting is when it was always scheduled and not earlier. There were the changes to the presentation were simply rearrangement, and we encourage that the application be exactly as it will go to the commission. So that was very much in order. And there were questions about the view of the streetscape, and those were satisfied by pointing out that they were all in the application in the appendix. It was unanimous. And thank you.
Does anyone want to call out questions? Yeah, I would like to call out number 2. Yeah, I have a suggestion. Can I be heard, or shall I come over to the microphone?
Could they please use the microphone for whoever's speaking?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm sorry. Oh, okay. Thank you. Okay, Chanel, I see that in the number C under the results, that you are asking for consideration to have discussions with MTA concerning ADA access to the subway and incorporating this provision into the entrance design. And I just feel that in view of, there is a new policy now, happily, with MTA committing to achieving 95% of ADA access, that this is the perfect time for us to really be demanding that this be done. And so I would just like to suggest an alternative to the perfectly reasonable statement here, except that a strong one. And I will read you what I suggest. It is under the recommendations.
Susan, could you clarify that? I just couldn't hear.
Can you hear me? Okay.
Your mic's much better, Susan.
MTA New York City Transit to provide ADA access into the subway easement area
that exists within the project footprint in keeping with the city's policy for more universal ADA access to the subway, so that ADA access is an essential component of the redevelopment of the site, and also incorporate that ADA access into the master plan for the MTA entrance and or the design of storefront infill.
We discussed about how it would be, it's not at all certain that it would be within the building, which is our concern. And this only would cover if it were within the building and we were concerned that it be redesigned, that it be designed and the modifications be if it were going to be within the building. There have been no discussions with them about that. And typically the elevator access is a standalone thing on the sidewalk along there. So we just don't want to go beyond the particular landmark item and to do with this particular.
Just so you realize, you're proposing an amendment here.
Right,
Like the second.
right. We no longer call it friendly.
I'm gonna have to
That
ask
has nothing to do with that.
please, could Susan come and see to this? It's just intelligible.
Okay, what I
Put it in the chat.
Yeah, I was gonna, can I see the text?
I have it.
Oh, you do? Okay, great.
Chenault does not have the power to accept or reject your language. If you want something changed, you must make a motion for an amendment.
Okay.
If the amendment has been seconded, so it's a question of, then we will vote on it. If there's a discussion on it, and then we would vote on it.
Okay, so
And I would ask that Susan answer the discussion if there are questions.
sorry.
I'm sorry, would you say that again?
I'm asking that Susan answer the questions.
Oh, Susan Gavin.
No, it's Shirley. What do you mean?
Susan Gammy, the vice chair of
The
the.
vice chair, Susan Gavin.
I was not at the meeting, so I cannot speak to the conversation at the committee level.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. Can you give the other microphone to Shirley? Perhaps that's it.
Okay, maybe he's not hearing you. Why don't you try this one?
I'm getting the gist, but not what she's saying.
If you want me to read.
You must hold it close.
The
Hold it close.
alternative amendment that I'm proposing. Is that the correct?
Yes, you have to.
Can you hear me, Shana?
Yeah,
Okay,
is
how
the
about
text
that way?
coming?
Okay, hold on, let me put my glasses on and I will read it.
Swallow the mic.
Okay, hear me? Okay. Oh, yes. Confer with MTA New York City Transit to provide ADA access into the subway easement area that exists within the project footprint in keeping with the city's policy for more universal ADA access to the subway, so that ADA access is an essential component of the redevelopment of the site, and also incorporate the ADA access into the master plan for the MTA entrance and or the design of the storefront infill.
Okay, it's clear and I have the text before me. I believe that this goes beyond landmarks considerations into the very worthy need for ADA access. And I believe that our existing language covers its getting into the building and the architectural adjustments needed for that.
However, Shirley has made a motion for an amendment.
To
It
amend
has been
that
seconded.
number C.
Is there any other discussion on it? Because action. Okay. Then, okay, I see several hands. Zach?
Yeah, so
Well, you've got.
Yeah, come up here,
You
you
got
might
a hearer's act.
That's fine.
So why don't you come up, or unless you can
This
really
is-
project?
I can really project. This might be a silly question, but why is it in landmarks and not land use? Was this already approved from the land use for the development of these extra 9 stories?
It's not a U line.
No, this is a landmark district, that's why.
Right, but it's not, it's an as of right building.
Ah.
Right.
It's
Right,
not
this
like
is-
don't be a landmark district.
Right.
Right, if I could just answer from land use, this is an as of right. This is actually the first building that's coming in after the Soho NoHo rezoning. And so it is an as of right building, which is why this is not coming before the land use committee.
Robert,
I think I can project everyone. Okay.
go ahead.
I'll make a comment that the subway entrance is in the building today. But any of you who've seen elevators around the city, elevators are not always within the entrance, they're often placed on the street. I feel like requiring essentially that they deal with this as part of the building design goes way beyond what the building is required to do. Because the MTA could decide to put an ADA entrance anywhere on the street that they want. So I don't think it's our place as landmarks to put this on the building designers as part of landmarks to incorporate an ADA access to the entrance. It's on the MTA to work with the building to figure that out. That's
Frederica.
I like the way Chanel did it, and I thought it was a mistake also to require the ADA access to be within the project footprint.
I saw a hand in the back.
I feel like we generally don't allow or try not to have anything other than landmark related content and landmark red zone. And I just find it interesting that the one place that we're adding would significantly increase the cost of a project that's already designed to provide housing. And I'm not really sure that the person redeveloping the building is the person who should bear the financial burden. And so I would ask that we would, at least if we're requiring it, would require it from some other cash flow source. I don't know why they should pay for it.
Thank you, Valerie.
Yeah.
I will take that, Vegas.
Sorry, I'm gonna be thinking about my mind. Okay, hi, Valerie Del Rosa. I would just like to, I am on the Landmarks Committee, and the Economic Development Committee has covered ADA accessibility. So I think advocating for ADA accessibility wherever we can is important. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, Ryder.
I'm on the Economic Development Committee as well. And we have talked a lot about ADA accessibility. It is a critical issue. And to Shirley's point, it is a fundamental commitment that has been made to increase access for 95% of stations by 2055. But to that point, I don't think we're necessarily going to see that happen in this building through access in the building envelope itself. And since this is such an important project, which got a lot of community support, I think I'd be in favor of keeping the resolution as is, as to not introduce this big wrench in this stage of the process.
Thank you. Eugene.
Thank you. I just wanted to add 2 points. I am on the Landmarks Committee as well as the Land Use Committee. But I want to point out that for this application, this particular building does have an easement for the MTA access to that station. So there is an existing easement that exists, that is part of this. So I believe that because of that, we would be within our right to push for ADA accessibility within the building envelope. Second, I do want to point out that as part of something that we heard within the Land Use Committee last year was zoning for accessibility, which is the MTA program to encourage developers to, as part of any enlargement or redevelopment of a site, to look into ways to increase accessibility, whether it's through an elevator or other way to access the subway station itself. So I would point out that as part of zoning for accessibility, I would like to encourage developers, and this is certainly a large, it's not a simple modification of the building, it's a very large modification, and this is an excellent opportunity to push for increased accessibility. Thank you.
Thank you.
I have a question. Okay, I have a question. Are we saying with this amendment to require it or just to encourage? That seems to be not clear to me.
I was going to say two things. The tone was to be a little more demanding that they should confer with MTA New York City Transit. That was how they had written it. And I did want to ask if anybody knows if this does, maybe this does not really belong in landmarks, but where does it belong? Would it be with economic development? I mean, maybe this is something that should be taken up separately and a resolution developed in accordance with the particular committee where it belongs. Yes, Will.
My read of this, if we're just replacing C with Shirley's language that she read out, it's still under the headline that CB2 Manhattan recommends, and it's part C of that. So I don't read it as a requirement. So if that language is the same, then I think I would support it because it falls under the recommends.
Yes, Steve.
I would just like to add that while the committee, the landmarks committee review this, any resolution we pass will be a resolution of the full community board. So, you know, which committee looked at it is less relevant.
And I will point out that a resolution can have multiple purposes. It may come out of a specific committee, but by incorporating language, it can be used for multiple purposes. And especially when you're dealing with something that doesn't clearly fit into an existing committee, sometimes that is the appropriate course. I see more hands, but who has not spoken? Yes, Susanna.
I have a question, which is who will read this resolution? Will it just be the landmarks commission that reads this resolution, in which case it doesn't really matter if we say anything about the MTA, because I have nothing to do with the MTA? Or will this go to other people who actually would have some impact on these
We
projects?
send it to whomever we want to send it, including the MTA. That's why you put it in. Yes, correct.
So my understanding is that any changes to the facade of the building need to be reviewed by landmarks, and that's why including this at this point is important, so that there is a position on it, and that is part of the master plan that is being considered and being put forth for the buildings. I think this is the right time. And also on top of that, this enhances the access to this community for everybody, and that it's always been a part of the.
May I speak to that? What I believe I heard. Susan.
Go
May
ahead,
I speak
Janelle.
to that point? If I understood correctly, if some modifications are required because it's decided to install an elevator or other ADA access within the building, that would properly come to us at the time that it's being considered. And the impetus for these comes from MTA, not from developers. So that I feel like with the resolution, we're sort of getting ahead of what is the situation. MTA is the place to petition to actually have it.
Is there any more discussion? Okay, yeah, okay, Zach, I'm just gonna remind everybody, it is 8:32. If we do not finish our business, we have to call another meeting. Sorry to inform you, but that's the way it works. So I will ask you to be thoughtful with your future questions and comments. Go ahead, Zach.
I just wonder if there's a middle ground within the proposal to say if they are making changes to the station,
that fits into an MTA plan to make it ADA accessible, just given the fact that when stations are updated, they tend to not be updated for another 20 years. If that is in the context of them building now, or if it is in the context of building later, that's would make sense to kind of balance the economic interests with the ADA accessibility.
Are you offering an amendment of an amendment? Basically, you can't actually.
No, I'm not.
Okay, well, we would have to vote on Shirley's amendments, and then what we have. Just so you know, calling the question requires votes. You do
Yes.
not just end it, okay?
No.
But if there is no more discussion on it, we can vote on Shirley's amendments right now. Okay. So, all those in favor? Let's see what we get first by this vote. So all those in favor of Shirley's amendment, aye?
Aye. Oh, Shirley, sorry, no, sorry.
Aye.
And all those opposed?
Oh.
I think,
It sounds like the ayes have it.
okay, we're just going to need the names of the nays then. Okay, let's take down those names, please.
Well, they just stand up. Yeah, right. And that just change it.
Let's do this. If you're voting no, come see me after the meeting. I'll.
You're just saying it. Sure. No, Susanna Aaron.
Yeah, stand up, and once your name is called, sit down.
Roberts.
Yep.
Ryder Kessler. Second. And
If you're voting
voting, I'll
no,
call you.
Be called. Susan
Okay,
Gammy,
Susan Gammy.
Cormac Flynn,
Hold on. Okay,
Rich Cacapola, Matt Metzger, Chris Dignas, and Lucille Sachs, and Keen Berger. Anybody online voting no? Chenault is voting no.
I'm voting no to Shirley's amendment.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. Okay.
okay, those are 12 no's.
Okay, so the amendment passes. Seeing no more discussion on that, I will move that item into the omnibus. As for the other items, was there anything else from landmarks to discuss? Otherwise, everything else will also go into the omnibus.
There's nothing from me.
Oh, there was nothing from you. Okay, thank you. So the next is quality of life.
Okay. Is that on? Yeah.
This is.
Okay, hello. Yeah. So we had two activity applications this month. I'll go through them quickly. The first is June 10th to 11th, Hoop Drop, Broadway between Prince and Spring. That was a did not appear, denied, unanimous. Number two, Mulberry Event 23. This one was fairly controversial. There were a number of members of the public, including local businesses who showed up. This was a 3-on-3 basketball tournament that they were going to do on Mulberry Street. In the end, we voted to deny, and they knew the event is already passed. So that was sort of a success story. They held it in Sarah V. Roosevelt Park, which we thought was a much better place to hold it. So that was unanimous denied, but it's pretty much moot at this point. Number three, Chanel Artists 23, June 12th. That was a no-show, denied, unanimous. Number four was the Whitney Museum event. That's already happened as well. That was an unanimous approval. With 2 abstentions. And then number 5, the Maybelline pop-up tour, Pride pop-up tour, June 20th. That was unanimous approved. There was a second Maybelline event, July 27th, also in the Campbell Plaza. These are both Campbell Plaza events. That was unanimous denied, in keeping with our usual stance of denying pure commercial events. The Firelight Cheese event, number 7, June 22nd. This was a curb lane activation street cart. That was a unanimous deny. Food truck, excuse me. And number 8, Kiss Cosmetics event. This is another Campo Plaza event, which currently is being set up right now. This was also a unanimous deny as a purely commercial event. Otherwise, there were a number of FYI renewals, and that was unanimous.
Okay, right.
A very quick question. I'm slow to open the can of works, but do we have a general policy about food truck activations? I know this one was denied, but it seems like the much smaller kind of interruption of day-to-day life that could have positive benefits for the community. So I wonder if we have a standard approach.
While we do have a matrix that we look at for plazas, we do not yet have one for food trucks at this point.
That
We
I
look
think
at it
would
on
be great to develop.
one.
Is the matrix publicly available to the public and to applicants?
Is it on the website? We have to check. It's not an official ranking matrix, it's more just like guidelines that sort of use.
Anyone else? Okay, so if there's no objection, then we will also roll these into the omnibus. vote.
Thank you.
And next is parks.
Good.
Check. We had our meeting on the 7th. We discussed 3 topics and there were 3 resolutions. So not one for each topic. I'll explain. The first one was a resolution in support of the dual role of administrator of Washington Square Park and the executive director of the Washington Square Park Conservancy. This came out of our discussion on the update on Washington Square Park. And Will Morrison, who's been the administrator, was also recently named the executive director. There was some discussion about that. So we passed the resolution saying that we supported it. The Manhattan Community Board 2 supports the dual role of administrator of Washington Square Park and executive director of the Washington Square Park Conservancy, and of course the assignment of Will Morrison to this dual role, and reserves the right to express a different opinion if and when a different person were to be assigned to the dual role position. That was unanimous. And then there was a second one. This one, timely, we met weeks ago, but this was a resolution requesting consistent and complete enforcement of rules in Washington Square Park. You should read the whereas clauses, but therefore be it resolved that Manhattan Community Board 2, that the New York City Department of Parks and Recreation work with the local police department to find ways to control these disturbing and dangerous activities, including stronger and more consistent enforcement of existing park rules, while working with Community Board 2 and park users to develop approaches tailored to the specific needs of the park, and 2, that the New York City Department of Parks and Recreation review its current policies and consider changes that would reduce activities that endanger the safety of visitors, particularly senior citizens, for example, skateboarding. And that was unanimous. And then the third one was about a design for the renovation of the William F. Passanante ball field. We passed a resolution in support of that plan. There are 7 whereas clauses and a few, we have 5, therefore be it resolved. Therefore be it resolved that Manhattan Community Board 2, 1, endorses the plan to rebuild the ball field as described by the Department of Parks and Recreation, as well as the goals expressed in the schematic presented. So it's not exactly clear or entirely clear how the overlapping play will work without understanding the permit process, and encourages the Department of Parks and Recreation to confirm the process by which permits will be granted and enforced, and adjust the park rules and the coexisting play, and any permits granted posted online and at the entrances to the park, and request that the needs of and uses by local schools be considered priorities, including the timing and duration of the construction. Closure will impact recess and after school activities, and looks forward to the installation of the new surface, trees, and the installation of improved water fountains included in the plan for the rebuilding of the support community space for active recreation. That was unanimous.
Any debate or discussion on any of these? Or wanting to call them out? Okay, seeing none, we'll be going to the omnibus. So next is SOI.
Okay. Okay, SLA one, we had 23 applications, 9 resolutions, all are specifically unanimous. The first one, King J Garden, doing business as Lady Child's Kitchen at 171 Hester Street for restaurant wine license, previously unlicensed location. That was denied unless with stipulations. LW Corp. doing business at Munchies, 126 McDougal Street, that was a restaurant wine. That was also denied unless with stipulations. Again, unanimous. Gilwise Canal LLC doing business as the Long Beauty Hot Pot, 159 Canal Street, restaurant wine. Denied unless with stipulations, unanimous. Blue Stripes 13th Street, doing business at Blue Stripes, 28 East 13th Street. This is a new tavern wine, previously unlicensed location. That was denied unless with stipulations, unanimous. Post on Howard, 21 Howard Street. This is a restaurant wine for a catering facility. Denied unless with stipulations, that was unanimous. Valley Bungalow, New York City, doing business at Valley Bungalow, 359 West Broadway, also known as 495 Broome Street. That was an off-premise for a restaurant. That was the old company room space that a lot of people know. That was denied unless with stipulations, unanimous. Wolf of 6th Avenue, doing business at Baldwin Street, 353 6th Avenue. That was a new restaurant wine, previously unlicensed. It was just a re-notification. That's denied unless with stipulations. And 357 West Broadway, doing business as residents in Caviar Cafe at 357 West Broadway. That was a new on-premise for a restaurant, denied unless with stipulations, and that was unanimous. Items 9 through 23 are layovers or withdrawals. That's it for us. Questions on the any call-outs, questions? Okay, so for SLA 2, Cormac Swin, who's committee member and former co-chair of the committee, presided over that meeting and will present those resolutions.
So we had 20 applications and we heard 10 and we have 10 resos. They were all unanimous. There are a bunch of new people I heard being more beginning. Just a reminder, the language in SLA land of deny unless means approve. Okay, versus just deny, which means recommend no. The first one was Bleecker Street Pizza at 6971 7th Avenue South. This was a corporate change. The woman who was owning it was transferring it to her daughter's manager. And we also added some proceeding over about it. Number 2 was the Whitney Museum. That was unanimous denial, I should say. Was the Whitney Museum. They wanted to extend hours on their ground floor cafe and restaurant, and also on their 8th floor interior cafe and restaurant, as well as we distributed their seating and some other bits and pieces. That was also denying less. Number 3, and I apologize here for the typo on the reso. While we were young, at 183 West 10th Street, space 2, it should be numbered item 3, and it's just unnumbered on the and this was an application for an alteration to add an open storefront to have them, to allow them to have the opening operable windows. That was a deny. The next item was Capone Foods at 11 Abington Square. This is Capone, their Italian sandwich shop that's been working in the marketplace. So now they're moving to their own space. That was a deny and last. A24 Commerce because the Cherry Lane Theater. Cherry Lane Theater adding an in-theater restaurant and also may have service of alcohol to the seats and things like that. That was a deny and last. Number 6, Retro Japan at 87 7th Avenue South. This is the old Sushi Samba space. Okay, there was a bit of controversy on this because the hours are relatively late, for the location, but we recommended a deny that. So, and number 7 was Caesar's. This is a French-Japanese restaurant that is opening on Hudson Street. And that was a deny and less. Number 8 is Lynn LLC, which actually stands for Love Your Neighbor. This is going in, this is also it's a Haya style Japanese restaurant with live music. It's going into the bar 55 space directly adjacent to the Stumble. And that was the denial last. And Arthur and Sons, which I think people know is the Italian restaurant pizza on Sunday. They were looking for license to serve alcohol to their sidewalk cafe. That was the denial last. And Shea Group, Shea Omar, right, with the restaurant. This was a re-notification. We heard this application before and they got that stuff in processing, and so we told them sure. The other items, 11 through 20, were all holdovers. We had heard one of them, but they wanted to come back after checking something, so we'll deal with them next. But they're all withdrawals or laid over or didn't close. And that's it.
Any questions, anyone pulling any out? If not, okay, that's it. Thank you. Next is land use.
Thank you, Susan. So this month in land use, we had 3 applications or 3 items. The first is an update on 388 Hudson Street, which there's no resolution for. And then there's 2 other items with resolutions. I will cover 388 Hudson and Katie will cover the 2 items with the resolutions. So for 388 Hudson, we had representatives from Housing Preservation and Development come to give an update on the affordable housing initiative at the 388 Hudson Street site. We had Tyler Tishner, pre-development planner. Joining him was Michael Sandler, Associate Commissioner for Neighborhood Strategies, and Amy Pivak, Director of Pre-Development Planning and Urban Design. There was also significantly a representation from other city partner agencies, including the Department of Environmental Planning. We had Alicia West representing that department, Jesslyn Moser, a planner from Parks and Recreation, and then we had Andrew Cantu, the Westside team leader from the Department of City Planning. So this is a continuation of an initial discussion that started in the April meeting, the April land use meeting this year. At that April land use meeting, the project had been introduced and the committee had concerns about wanting clarity on some of the zoning assumptions in place that were limiting the size and or the design of the affordable housing development. In April, the committee and the CB2 passed a resolution with those concerns. And this presentation from HPD contained updates on their timeline as well as a response on the resolution that was passed. So first, the updates were that the first step of the 5 to 8 year timeline is the community visioning process. And in that process, the timelines are now extended a bit. So actions that have already happened to date were a June 8th community discussion involving the city as school that was held virtually. HPD has also held 5 tabling events so far, and as well, they've also launched a website and an online questionnaire, which resulted in approximately 150 responses. What they have planned for the future is a in-person tabling event at City S School. The date is still TBD. An in-person visioning workshop, which is currently tentatively scheduled for July 27th at 75 Morton Street. So the public's invited to come. Again, it's July 27th at 75 Morton Street. And that will be an in-person meeting for going over visioning for this project. A virtual meeting will also be scheduled, which has the same content as the in-person meeting. The date is still TBD, but it is likely to be early September. So there is some, HPD said that there were some scheduling issues with having this over the summer months. So that is why some of these are pushing out into September. There also planning additional tabling events at various places within the community. And then once the visioning workshop is complete, they will schedule a report back meeting, which is the summary of public input. That will be held in September or October. The output of that meeting will be the community visioning report, which will be attached to the RFP that is then issued. And that RFP is now issued to be expected to be issued in fall of 2023. So there is some additional time that is being held. And the reason for that is to bring in some additional options in terms of being able to maximize the affordable housing built on the site. They also presented an update on the open space portion. So for the open space, the southern portion of the site, the Hudson Square bid will be bringing on a design consultant, and they will be scheduling community input sessions in fall of this year. So on the affordable housing update, the previous assumptions had been that some of the development rights were assumed to come strictly from the northern portion of the site, which is called the affordable housing parcel. That is 13,625 square feet. So that is a portion of the 25,000 square foot site. At the April meeting, HPD presented illustrative examples with R8A, R9A, and R10A zoning districts. They also assumed a 30-foot setback on the dividing line between the two parcels, and they assumed a bar-shaped building. What has changed from April to now is now, as part of the incremental update, they have changed some of the assumptions. So now there's the potential to rezone the entire lot, which would create additional zoning square feet on the open space parcel. With the creation of the additional zoning rights, there will be transfer of development rights possible between the open space and the affordable housing parcel. So the city agencies have indicated that they're open to exploring the transfer of these development rights, commonly known as air rights. And they are also exploring some additional zoning map actions, which could increase the building envelope in order to accommodate the additional development rights. So they presented two additional illustrative examples. One was R10A in conjunction with a transfer of development rights. This would present a total of approximately 182,000 square feet of zoning residential square footage, and an estimated 210 to 230 housing units. This would be a building maximum height of 235 feet, or about 23 stories. Another option that they presented was adopting the special Hudson Square District rules. So these are the rules that were part of the Hudson Square rezoning. This would result in 211,000 zoning square feet for the housing portion and approximately 240 to 270 housing units, with a building that was approximately 290 feet tall, or about 28 stories. They are also evaluating other options which could allow for additional housing units, but these were very early exploratory phases, so they did not have an update for the committee at the time. Members of the community in attendance raised several issues, including asking for more outreach to local organizations and residents. They asked for the development to be contextual to the neighborhood. There were some questions about the survey where the respondents lived within the neighborhood, and also whether an online survey was excluding some of the older or less tech-savvy residents in the neighborhood. There was a request that the design of the building should reduce as much as possible shadows on the park on the northern side. And there was additionally some praise from people in attendance for the extended timeline of the project. Further updates will be the focus of additional land use meetings, but we found that this was a very promising update from HPD as well as the other agencies. That is it for the 388 Hudson. If there are no questions, I'll hand it over to Katie.
I have a question for the chair. With all respect to this great report and the great work of this committee, This is a report, not a resolution. Did we make an
Correct.
exception that we're making this report? Because we don't usually do reports. We usually present resolutions. That's a question for the chair.
Oh, you know, you are correct. This is something that we don't normally do. This is an exceptional project because of we're, you know, because of our housing situation, and it is a unique opportunity.
Okay.
But yes, you are correct.
Yeah, it would be helpful.
Thank you. Apologies if I was out of order.
You know, he's just overwhelmed by the possibilities. What
Thank
can
you.
I
That's
say?
all I had.
Okay, how about talking about some resolutions?
Okay, I just follow up on two things. First of all, I too want to honor Zella Jones. Will Benish may not know, but she was chair of the Sidewalks Committee at one time. And I knew her in many different ways, and I will miss her, as will other members of our community. Secondly, I think it's very appropriate for Eugene to report. I want to just respond to Susanna, because we are, the community board has been quite effective in getting all of this further attention and expansion of, you know, expansion of the exploration by the agencies. And I think it's a real testament to with the work we have done. So I'm glad that we're sharing it with you, because your votes and your support is really making this happen. So I hope you'll indulge us in letting us talk to you about it. We had two other items on our agenda, and one sort of smaller and one very large. And the second item we heard was an application for continuing a variance at 69-71 McDougal Street, familiarly known as the Villa Moscone. And this is the third variance that they've asked for an enclosed dining space in a backyard and some ancillary cellar storage to that. The first variance was granted in 2002, the second one in 2013, and they came back to us with a request for either 20 years without term or in perpetuity. The committee resolved that we would recommend an approval of an extension for 10 years. That's the standard length of the variance, and what we did a couple months ago for Babbo in another restaurant asking for dissimilar terms, but we felt we want to stay with 10 years so that we can look at it again. The third item we heard was another big item, the whole City of Yes situation, where this is a carbon neutrality zoning text amendment. There are two more zoning text amendments that will come. Perhaps economic development will work with one of them. And there are 17 specific proposals, and you can look at the whereases and see some apply to us and some don't. But we have some concerns, particularly around issues of landmarking, about how some of the proposals affect landmarking. So therefore, be it resolved, the Community Board 2 Manhattan recommends approval of the City of Yes carbon neutrality proposal, taking into account the concerns and issues that we've raised in the whereases. And that's our report. So Susan, giving it back to you.
Yes, Will.
Just wanted to propose an amendment on 3.
Okay, and that would be,
Should I go up and read it or?
we do, yes, because it has to be voted on, so we have to have language.
Yeah, no, I just didn't know if she built microphone. Okay, so this is for resolution 3.5C, which is proposal 15. I just have an amendment to slightly modify the language of this one, which covers traffic enhancements.
It should be on the bottom. Says, has the potential to reduce sidewalk space and give the impact that accessibility to building entrances for those with the accessibility needs. The average sidewalk width in Community Board 2 Manhattan is much narrower than the city average.
Um,
24th, yeah.
Yes, so my amendment would be as follows. Proposal 15, tree pit enhancements, including rain gardens. These enhancements are likely to play an important part in the city's long-term resiliency planning and in general should be supported. However, depending on design, they have the potential to reduce sidewalk space and negatively impact accessibility to building entrances for those with accessibility needs. The next sentence is the same. The average sidewalk width within community core 2 Manhattan is much narrower than the city average. And then to add after that, in most areas of CD2, any connected tree pit should include pavement bridging over the trench to ensure pedestrian access. And just some context for that, there are design guidelines put out by DOT on connected tree pits, and they talk about the ability to bridge over them for access.
Second amendment.
Okay. All those in favor of, I'm sorry, is there any more discussion about that?
Do you have it visually so we can share?
I'm about to send it.
Okay.
Okay.
Are you taking it?
Not doing, but I'm on Zoom, so.
Okay.
Starting with this one.
If there's no more discussion,
Can I just do one more thing on up here?
you might as well.
I don't think this needs to be an amendment, but I was just wondering if at the link at the top, there's a specific project description that lists out all 17 proposals. Right now, it doesn't link to that, so it might be useful because it's kind of jumbled on here with all the different language. I don't think it's an amendment, it's just sort of.
That's
In the screen. Yeah.
Yeah, that's fine.
Thank you.
Okay,
Susan,
if there's
Susan,
no
may I
more
say something?
discussion, yes,
Susan? I
Yes.
just want to thank,
Go ahead.
thank Will for his, I just want to thank Will for his very constructive addition, just to share with the group.
okay, and seeing that there is no discussion on this, I will take a vote. All those in favor?
I,
All those- Love the echo. All those opposed? Abstentions, recusals. Okay, the amendment passes. This will go into the omnibus as amended. And that is the end of land use. We have cannabis licensing.
Hi, Cheryl, I'm speaking in place for Martha Cheryl today, and be here. So the cannabis license land use for one application is actually an operation for an existing license permit. It is the Joe Fund LLC doing business as Union Square Travel Agency. They are actually acquiring the space right next door to their existing space right now, which they've been in operation that originally at 52 East 13th Street. And they're extending into 835 Broadway, where they're gonna have a patron entrance as well. The hours are gonna remain the same. This deal that came and showed us a really nice set that they're going on. And everything was good. So we voted unanimously to deny the last. That's it. Any questions? There, votes. Yes, actually, just, I would like to understand on whereas 8, what is considered a self-serve kiosk? So, yeah, so they have these for the point of sale stations where this is what they explained to me. So, but yeah, basically whenever if there's gonna be too many people in there, if the traffic gets really high, they have to kind of sell in the service. I think it's like in the supermarket. That's the way I. And you take what they
No.
want?
Like a.
Sorry, I've been there, like, to give a little insight, if that's helpful. Sorry, I've just been inside, so I give a little
Yeah.
insight. It's that the clerks are just helping you kind of figure out what you want. You actually, there's no product out for you to hold. So you use this iPad thing and put in what you want, and then you go to the front where the cashiers are, and they bring the stuff to the
So you
cashier.
order it, like you.
It's like going to a
It's like
fast
going
food
to a
place
fast
where you
food
have a
place, yeah.
kiosk, you place your own order and then you just pick it up. and
Got
pay
it.
for it.
There you go. Thanks, everyone. Welcome to the board. That's great. Anybody else? Any other questions?
None, that's it, thank you, and we'll add this to the omnibus.
Great. Thank you.
And so next is schools.
Yeah, it's cool. Thank you. Hi, I have a lot of. There for good results, I'll just read it. Was a resolution to support enhancing evidence-based literacy instruction in the classroom for all New York City public school children.
Therefore, be resolved that CB2 urgently implores the Department of Education to provide unfailing support for Literacy Academy collective to teaching children with language-based learning disabilities how to read and write to close the educational gap among New York City. 2, expand the Literacy Academy collective pilots to additional school districts. 3, create a dyslexia-focused public school program at the Leader Street site to cater to and support dyslexic students in educational needs. 4, ensure that each borough had a standalone DOE public school for students with dyslexia and language-based learning disabilities and who struggle to read. 5, allocate sufficient funding to ensure proper implementation of Mayor Adams and Chancellor Banks' New York City Reads Initiative for fall 2023 and beyond, including initial and ongoing professional development. Ensure the implementation of evidence-based literacy instruction. 6, emphasize and include the importance of cultural responsiveness and literacy education and encourages schools to integrate culturally sustaining practices and materials from the Mosaic curriculum to engage students from diverse backgrounds. 7, collaborate with organizations like LAC and similar stakeholders to develop comprehensive literacy programs for New York City students. And 8, address systemic racism in the education system and promote inclusive and equitable practices that meet the needs of all students. The vote was unanimous.
Are there any questions or discussion? Yes, Keen.
Yes, I'm on this committee and I just want to say it was a fabulous presentation. And several members of this community board are part of this group. And it is available in a video. So if you want to, if anybody is interested in what really should happen in schools, they should get the video for you. How do you do that? YouTube. YouTube, yeah, it's there. It was amazing. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else on this? If not, we will add that to the omnibus. And that brings us to the end of the committee reports and business. So we will now proceed with a vote on the omnibus. The following things, it includes the following: the communications policies and bylaws amendment. We have one item, one reso from landmarks as amended. We have items 1, quality of life is 1 through 8, and then 9 through 23 is FYIs. Parks and waterfront, 3 resolutions. SLA 1, resolutions 1 through 10, 11 through 23 are layovers, withdrawals and no-shows. SLA 2 is items 1 through 10, and numbers 11 through 20, again, layovers, withdrawals and no-shows. Land use, items 2 and 3 as amended, cannabis licensing, one resolution, and schools and education, 1 resolution. Okay, is there anyone not? Yes.
I guess that's the like 1 through 8, and then it was 9 through 23.
Got it. Thank you. Okay. Is anyone unprepared to vote? Okay, so now we will take a roll call vote.
Suzanne Aaron,
Yes.
Natasha Mason,
She's not here.
Evan goes. Akila Osway,
She's not here.
William Benish. Stall. Keen Berger,
Yes, all except Parks number 1.
Carter Booth,
Yes to all.
Katie Garnero,
Yes to all via Zoom.
Peter Branch, Brennan. Okay, moving on to Rich Capola. Yes to all. Rachel Chaudhry,
Yes to all.
Valerie Della Rosa,
Yes to all.
Paul Brennan still absent. Chris Dignes.
Yes.
This to all. Mark Fitzgerald still absent. Okay, and Stella Fitzgerald.
Yes, to all.
Cormac Flynn,
Yes, to all.
Susan Gammy,
Yes, to all.
David Gruber,
Yes, to all.
and Tabor,
Yes, to all.
Julia Porky,
Yes, to all.
Wayne Coivinon,
Yes, to all.
Zach Kazaz,
Yes, to all.
Susan Kent,
Yes to all.
Ryder Kessler,
Yes to all except no on quality of life 7 and no on parks 2.
you. Janine Carlin,
Yes, to all.
Ivy Funds, Arcee,
Yes to all, thank you.
Patricia Laria,
Yes, to all.
Michael Levine,
Yes to all.
Ed Bob,
Yes to all.
thank you. Matt Metzger,
Yes to all, except I have to recuse on cannabis with regret, but with the dope bundle, that's all.
Can you please name your recusal reason?
For my work on the card financing program.
Daniel Miller, still absent. Erica Olson,
Yes, to all.
Juan Osorio, still absent.
No.
No, he's here.
He's here.
And voted yes.
I voted yes to all.
Thank you. Brian Pate, yes to all. Donna Raftery,
Yes, to all.
Louis Greco,
Present and still here.
And.
Yes, to all.
Paul Recordone,
Yes.
Zach Roberts,
Yes to all.
Rocio Sands,
Yes to all except park number 1 and cannabis.
Shirley Secundo,
Yes to all.
Kristen Shea,
Yes. Thank you. Yes.
Frederica Siegel,
Yes, to all.
Emma Smith,
Yes, to all.
Dr. Shirley Smith, Janelle Spence,
Yes to all.
Susan Wittenberg,
Yes, to all.
Anthony Wong,
Yes to all.
Cheryl
Yes, yes to all.
Eugene Yu,
Yes to all.
Okay, so everything passes. Any new business?
One.
If not, I will take a motion to adjourn.
No.
Okay, thank you, everyone. Good night.
Good night.
Thanks, everyone.
Good night.
Thanks a lot.
Wow.
Yes.
Needs to, so, you know, so anytime I'm here to do that.
I love this. It's okay. Right now.